Good afternoon, Ivy Hill Prep. I'm super excited to welcome you back to Ivy Hill Science Experiments. Last week, we did a fun experiment around states of matter, and we learned some facts about matter. We learned that there's states of matter all around us. Sometimes people don't pay attention to that, but states of matter are everywhere we go. Last week, we learned that solids and liquids and gases are our three states of matter. Did you remember that? Did you remember any facts about the three states of matter? Well, I'm sure you remember. I'm sure you remember that solids hold their shape. Solids don't break. A pencil. You leave it on your desk, you go back to school, it still has its same shape, right? A brick wall, you can't go through a brick wall, but a liquid, you can go through a liquid. You can't hold water, you can't hold other liquids like you can hold a pencil, but you can go through liquids. You can touch liquids, you can feel it. And then gases, we learned that gases can also take a shape like liquids. Solids, they hold their shape. No matter where you put a liquid, it will take a shape. Just like a swimming pool. You can go through the water in a swimming pool, you can touch the water, and it takes the shape of the swimming pool. Gas also takes shape. This balloon is full of air. It took the shape of the balloon. Now, we learned that last week. This week, I want to teach you something new. This week, I want to teach you about atoms. Atoms are small little bits and pieces of matter. Atoms and particles are small little pieces of matter. And solids, the atoms and solids are all packed up together. They're tightly together. They don't move. They stay intact. And that's why you can't break them. They stay the same. They keep its shape. Now, liquids is so interesting. Liquids have atoms that have space in between them. That's why they can take a shape. When you put it in a container, when you put it in a cup, anything that you put a liquid in, it'll take its shape. Gases, oh my goodness, gases is even more. Gases, atoms are super spread apart. And that's why gas always moves. If you fill up a balloon, does it stay still? It moves. Because the atoms are spread apart. So friends, we just learned a new fact about states of matter. I want to teach you one more thing. States of matter can change from one to another. Water can be all three states of matter. Water is the substance, but it can change a state of matter, but the substance doesn't change. So let me show you. Water is a liquid. It takes its shape. If I pour it in here, in my measuring cup, it'll take its shape. It took the shape of the measuring cup. Pour it back in the cup, it takes the shape of the cup. Now, the liquid, when it changes into ice, when the water, the substance changes into ice, it happens when the temperature is really low, when it's cold. That's why when you put water in the freezer, it turns into ice because the temperature in the freezer is really cold. And then you get ice. Ice is a solid. When you take water and you boil it, you're picking up the temperature really high, and then it turns into steam. Look at the steam. You see the steam? The steam has gas. So water is all three states of matter. I hope that you found that really, really cool to learn some facts about states of matter. Now, we're going to engage. We're going to have some fun and do an experiment that shows how the states of matter change. Before we start our experiment, you want to make sure you have all of your materials. If you have all of your materials, you're ready, and you don't have to move around back and forth trying to get your spoon and then trying to get your juice. Let's make sure we have all of our materials first before we begin. So you need 2/3 of a cup of juice. 2/3 of a cup of juice. So I'm going to make sure that I have 2/3 of a cup of juice. I'm pouring my juice inside my measuring cup to ensure that I have 2/3 of a cup. So I'm looking for my 2/3. 2/3 of a cup. And then I want to make sure that I have my ice ready, that I have my bowl of ice. So I'm going to have my bowl of ice. Look at my bowl of ice. That's my bowl of ice. I need a spoon to stir. I need a measuring tool that measures 1 tablespoon, because we're gonna need 3 tablespoons of salt. So I have my spoon, I have my measuring cup with my juice already measured, and I have my salt. You need a timer, but if you don't have a timer like Miss A, you can use a phone, right? You can maybe use your parents' phone. If there's a different type of timer at home, you can use that as well. You need a plastic cup. So let's go over those materials again. We have our bowl of ice. We have our 2/3 of a cup of juice. We have our spoon. We have our measuring tool that measures 1 tablespoon. We have our salt. We have our plastic cup, and we have our timer. Friends, now we have all of our materials. It is time to get started. First thing you do is you pour your cup, you pour your juice, you pour your juice into a plastic cup. You set it aside right next to my ice. And then I take my salt and I pour 3 tablespoons of salt in my ice. 1, 2, 3. I poured my 3 tablespoons of salt in my ice. And then I'm careful so I don't make a huge mess. Then, next step, you take your spoon. I'm gonna take my spoon and I'm gonna stir my ice. I'm stirring my ice. You wanna stir it really, really well. Nice and blended together. I made sure that all the pieces of ice has salt. Then I take my cup of juice and I place it right in the center of all my ice. It's right in the center of my bowl of ice. Wow, that was pretty quick and easy, wasn't it? Now we are going to set our timer. You will set the timer for 15 minutes. I'm setting my timer for 15 minutes. And I'm going to start my timer. When the timer goes off, we will check if the chemical reaction is happening. We are making slushy. We're making slushy. You can make lemonade slushy. You can make fruit punch slushy. You can make grape slushy. Miss A decided to do grape slushy because this is my favorite juice. I love Welch's grape juice. So I'm making my slushy out of Welch's grape juice. So while I'm waiting, I would love to tell you, what about the chemical reaction? What is that chemical reaction that's happening? Salt makes ice melt. That's the first chemical reaction. And then the ice gets really cold in the bowl and it absorbs the heat from the juice. So something's happening to the atoms. When the atoms get together, they start becoming a solid. So the atoms are coming tightly together and then it's becoming slushy. So friends, when you try this at home, I know you're gonna be patient like Miss A, because after those 15 minutes, you may have to put another 5 or 10 minutes. Sometimes it takes longer than other times, right? It all depends. How much ice do you use, right? If you put more ice and more salt, then the slushy will be done faster. But if you use 3 tablespoons, it should be done in 15 or 20 minutes. So Miss A waited 15 minutes and then I checked my juice and it was almost slushy, but not quite yet. So I added 5 minutes. And then after the 5 minutes, you know what happened? I got my slushy. That's my slushy. Look at that slushy. Look at that chemical reaction. I cannot wait to see you do this experiment. I can't wait to see videos and pictures. And I look forward to introducing you to a new science experiment next week.